Gero here from Umbra Games with a review of Monster Hunter World, released in January of 2018 for PS4 and Xbox One, and allegedly available on PC later in 2018. Played on PS4 for this review. The Monster Hunter series was created with the first game released on PlayStation 2 in 2004, and was one of the early games that could actually be played online with friends on that console. It took off in Japan a bit more than it did here in the States, but fortunately sold enough to keep Capcom releasing them here, even if it was eventual ports and not worldwide simultaneous releases. We got Monster Hunter 2 in PSP form instead of PS2. It was called Monster Hunter Freedom 2. 3 came to us in the form of Monster Hunter Tri on Wii, and later ported to Wii U and 3DS as Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Monster Hunter 4 was a 3DS release, and again released in the States and Europe as Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Monster Hunter XX in Japan was released later in the States as Monster Hunter Generations on 3DS only as well. There were a few spin-offs and even an online game that never made its way stateside, with the only spin-off story we received being Monster Hunter Stories released in 2017 on 3DS. I actually played the first Monster Hunter back when the online was still active with my friend you'll see in the videos here, Ascanio3. The length of time it took for your character to swing its weapon, in addition to us not being able to see the same small critters, made the game a chore in nearly every aspect. I personally always kind of assumed it was a real-time combat in a time where internet infrastructure was still finding its way as the sole purpose for the slower action. I tried the game again solo years later and just couldn't get into it. I put a few hours into Monster Hunter Tri on Wii in later years, and while on paper so much was exactly what I wanted out of that game, I still just couldn't get into it. It wasn't until my other friend, Holcules, or Ixo as you'll see him in videos of this review, suggested we give Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate a try on 3DS that I really got into the series. I think I spent 120 plus hours with that game, it having both a solo and cooperative campaign. We'd fire up Skype and voice chat over laptops or get together for local sessions. It was this iteration of the game that started to diversify the weapon choices so that everyone didn't feel like you were attempting to swing a 500-pound weapon. I suppose the extremists could say this is when the game got dumbed down, but many of the game's systems still had a crazy high learning curve. Monster Hunter World does fall into the action RPG genre for me, as even though you don't level your character's statistics through an experience system, there are still enough systems requiring experience, and enough numbers involved to give it that role-playing game feel. After creating your character and your cat friend called a Palico, you jump into the game's new world, following the migratory path of a giant creature later classified as an Elder Dragon, trying to see what it's up to. As a monster hunter, you help the Commission get established in this new world, gathering resources, establishing base camps, and eliminating that pesky native wildlife. Where the series gets unique from other action RPGs and hack-and-slash games is all character progression is done through the acquisition and subsequent crafting of monster parts retrieved from your prey. Your character can equip 5 different pieces of armor at a time, head, chest, hands, legs, and feet, and each piece of gear you obtain will have specific hard defense statistics, elemental resistances, and skill boosts. You also get to create gear for your Palico, who will assist you as an AI companion on your solo expedition or when you're playing with just one other player online. World has pulled a lot from the playability that started with 4 Ultimate in offering a choice of 14 different weapon categories, including both ranged and melee, with differing attack speeds and completely different button combinations and mechanics to give a very distinct, unique feel for each. Weapons come in multiple base forms and also have a series of upgrade trees of ever-increasing power with elemental and status damage bonuses. On top of that, nearly every incarnation of the weapon will have a distinct look, sometimes making the weapon look as if it were truly crafted from the remains of something you just took down. Every time you start playing the game, you'll begin an online session. If it's your first time, the game will matchmake you into a random session. You'll do your shopping and crafting and quest gathering in a makeshift hub village called Astera. While you're in a session, you can see the other players are there, but you won't actually see any avatars running around in Astera proper. You begin game content by accepting activities from a quest board. When you or other players in that session post a quest, it will show you a notification, and other players in that session can be free to join, pending player limit for that quest. If you have your friends you play with, you can create a squad, and additionally, a squad session. So then every time you begin a game, you have a unique session for your squad mates and aren't inviting people every time they log on. You can be a part of, I think, 50 squads at any given time. One key about multiplayer though is the game has 2 difficulties, single player and multiplayer. So if you have 2 people or 4, the monster's HP and power is still going to be the same. This makes 2 or 4 player optimal because in 2 player you both take your Palicos in, and in 4 player you obviously have 4 people. 3 player, nobody gets their Palico, leaving you with an absent position. However, Ascani, Ixo, and I did the majority of content in the game in 3 player mode, and yeah, there's a good level of challenge, but we made it through. Game progression in Monster Hunter World takes many forms. To advance in the game's story, you'll take a series of quests called assignments, introducing you to new monsters and geographical regions. In addition to advancing the plot, this is the sole way of advancing your Hunter rank, or HR as it is called, until you complete the campaign. There is one oddity that I still can't quite explain with assignments. About 98% of the time you take an assignment, even though you can choose up to 4 players to participate, each player has to have seen the ensuing cutscene or 2 on the assignment before others can join the quest. Now, either Capcom is proud of their constant jumping out of the way introduction scenes for each monster and want everyone to experience that thrill of the hunt, or there wasn't a functional way to pause the game when one person is tracking and finds the cutscenes while your companions stumbled onto another monster and could be getting obliterated while they're forced to watch. Sometimes the environment is manipulated when a monster is introduced as well, so it could be something weird with that too. Regardless, after viewing that scene, you can retreat from the assignment and start it all together, or fire an SOS flare, which allows a player, regardless of online session, to jump in and participate. If you want to gather resources from mining spots, vegetations, or mushrooms to craft items, or even take on some of the local wildlife you run into, you can go into any of the game's regions through what's known as an expedition. You can stay in the area as long as you like, gathering and hunting what you need. Optional quests become available through completion of assignments or talking to NPCs. Their difficulty is categorized by a star level on the quest board. These involve gathering resources, killing small monsters, or hunting a large one. These often provide additional rewards beyond the monster parts and money. Some can be difficult to find or initiate, and the three of us were often comparing notes to see what the other had picked up, and not knowing why or how we had. I'll admit, to grab all the extra base camps and find all the Palico gadgets, I used to walk through online, because a few of the gadgets seemed really obscure to obtain. The next type of content is investigations. Various activities, such as examining monster tracks or eliminating small monsters, will open up an unlimited number of quests called investigations. You can have up to 250 of these in your queue at a time, and you can bookmark 50 at a time, enabling you to depart on them through the message board. Investigations can be done a limited number of times before they disappear, and you have to find new ones. This type of quest really helps you target specific monsters, guaranteeing they'll appear in the wild, and provide money upon completion. You can check out all these quests through the Resource Center, which also lets you accept tasks called bounties, providing rewards for doing specific things you'll likely be doing in quest anyway. Questboard also features event quests that are only available for a specific amount of time. They're available based on your HR and provide a variety of rewards. Finally, there's a section of Astera called the Gathering Hub, where you can physically see other players that are in your online session. There are also some quests here where you can visit the arena with a predetermined set of armor and a choice of only a handful of weapons in which to engage a monster for special rewards. When you finish the game's main campaign, you can continue your hunting and working on your hunter rank by doing an occasional quest to raise the cap higher and higher. As was tradition though, you won't lose HR points if you haven't raised the cap yet, you just won't see it go, and then when you break that level, you'll see a super huge jump in your HR. With all monsters contributing to this ranking, going back and helping people stuck on specific creatures or answering SOS calls are activities that still help you in-game, so veterans will still selfishly get something for their contributions. Also, with no character levels and all stat bonuses coming from equipment, and with each quest taking less than a half an hour or so, Capcom has continued to maintain an easy jump-in, jump-out form of multiplayer where you and your friends don't necessarily have to all be in the exact same quest all the time to get enjoyment and progression from playing together, especially if you're working on opening up all the weapon trees on a particular weapon. So monster hunting itself. The game currently features more than a couple dozen different giant creatures. They begin the game indigenous to their unique biomes, but eventually begin wandering elsewhere. During quests that target specific creatures, you'll begin at a base camp you select on the map that's divided into numbered regions. Now, the numbered areas might seem a little overkill in this game, as they simply provide a simpler way to communicate to other players where to go, but in previous Monster Hunter iterations, due to what I assume is limited resources, each numbered area used to require a zone in and zone out to a black screen, making it easier for less powerful devices to manage the online activity and loading. As you search for your prey, you can use what are called scout flies, a glowing insect cloud kept in a container on your belt to find tracks or slobber or fur, which help you locate the beast. Your scout flies will level up the more things you find, to a point where if you've tracked the monster enough, it will instantly show up on your region map, and you can place a pin in it for your scout flies to work as a waypoint system guiding you there. As with previous games, when you engage in combat, you can break parts or sever things from the monster. Now, there are no life bars in this series at all, but we are given in this one an EKG that appears under its icon in the lower left. Their icon will start to blink on the minimap as well at times, and it also seems to have some correlation with the monster's current life level. Now, if you've done enough tracking when a monster is near death, you'll see a skull appear on its minimap, and at this point you have two options. You can finish it by killing it, just keep pounding it, or you can bring a shock or pitfall trap, get it caught, and then use tranquilizers that emit smoke and will trap it. In this game, it doesn't seem like you get many more products from trapping versus killing, but I think you can only get specific parts by carving. You can figure out which pieces you get from what by accumulated monster hunting, raising their research level that you can check via the Ecologist in Astera or your monster notebook. In addition to drops, it will show you which elements a creature is weak to, as well as the status effects it can most effectively be hit by. This is the first time I remember seeing damage numbers from your attack on the monster as well, showing you orange if you're hitting it with the right element and or a weak spot, and white text otherwise. There are also environmental opportunities in this game to use clouds of flash flies that can blind the monster, or vine traps they can get entangled in from knocking down trees, and even boulders that can be brought down in cave situations. You can prepare yourself for battle in a variety of ways. There's a canteen in Astera and also at the base camps where you can eat food to increase your health and stamina. Your stamina will deplete from varying attacks depending on your weapon and also from sprinting. Food can also grant buffs to attack and defense, or a variety of other little extras. The game has a pretty extensive crafting system, where you can grab plants in the wild, such as an herb, that can be made into a potion. Honey can be combined with potions to make them mega potions. You can also find seeds that can be crafted into armor and attack boosting drugs. You have a couple ways as a player to choose and consume the items in your inventory, including a menu bar scrolled through by holding L1 on the PS4 and using square and circle to rotate through. You can also customize radial menus that allow instant access to some using the right stick. For Series First, you can actually move while consuming a potion, as sometimes some of the most difficult parts of combat is watching for the openings to heal yourself. It takes a few seconds to perform these actions, and on some of the quicker monsters can be a little difficult. If you start to take a consumable item and get attacked, you'll often lose the item and not gain its full effect. There's still a decent learning curve in combat alone. Some monsters' hitboxes can feel a bit inconsistent at times. Sometimes a tail swoop over your head and you feel like you should get hit, but you don't. The monster's moving and you touch them, you'll take damage most of the time, but sometimes not. Some monsters can stun lock you, shaking the ground to lock you in place just to do a dive and knock you down, and then blow fire on you to kill you before you can do a single thing. Some monsters will break pattern and do crazy maneuver abilities while they're enraged, making them difficult to hit while they pound you into the ground. One monster in particular had an enrage mode attack that felt nearly completely unavoidable if he was targeted on you. But there's rarely a time when learning your foe and getting better at the game didn't make you triumph. But that doesn't mean we didn't complain periodically, sometimes loudly. So there's two types of currency that you'll want to keep flowing in. The game money is called Zinni, and there's also research points. Money is necessary for buying items from the vendor. All gear upgrades, in addition to harvested parts, require it, and it's an option to spend when you want to eat at the canteen. Research points come from completing the bounties I was talking about, finding certain harvesting nodes on each map, and by gathering monster tracks and signs. Research points can be used for fertilizer at the ancient tree in Astera, which serves as a crafting item duplicator. You can eventually purchase random goods, including monster parts with it. You can also spend them on Palico expeditions that are sent out from your room to have a chance at harvesting goods, including monster parts as well. You're currently awarded a voucher as a daily login bonus that can be applied at the start of a quest that will double the Zinni reward of the endeavor. Keep in mind when you're in multiplayer, you'll split the reward, and you lose a fraction of the total money every time a player dies. Doing an easy high reward investigation with a voucher is the easiest way to keep the Zinni flowing in. So there was some talk of a dumbing down for Western audiences for Monster Hunter World, and while I do believe some things have been made easier, I'd really just call it more user-friendly. I mean, sure, the ability to pin a target on the map and have a waypoint, and not be charged money for taking every quest, and having harvesting and resource nodes appear on your map, and seeing damage numbers, and having a semi-reliable way to see when a monster is ready to be trapped, and moving while drinking potions, yeah, alright. I still think dumbed down is a bit harsh, but they did lower the bar to entry just a little. And enter they did, as this is the fastest selling Monster Hunter, and I think maybe even the fastest selling Capcom game to date, with 5 million copies out the door in the first 3 days. There's still a ton of complexity here though, for newcomers, and the elitists at least get a beautiful looking console version of this fun game. There's something pretty satisfying in the upgrade formula this game presents. If you stick to one weapon through the game, you may start to find things feeling a bit repetitious, especially if you're going at it only in single player. Some of the encounters can take half an hour more, and if you're playing carefully on a new foe, but helping out and working on strategies with friends that hold a combination of weapons, working on getting those rare parts for those upgrades and armor pieces was just continually satisfying. At the time of the creation of this review, I'm just over 105 hours personally, and we've completed the campaign and we're working on additional HR rank, and me probably the Platinum Trophy. Graphically, this game looks great, with particular props given to the monster design. From the Pookie Pookie's combination of a peacock and a gecko, to the Tyrannosaurus Anjanath, to a variety of wyverns, to all the other fantastic creatures you encounter. The animations of the giant monsters is extremely well done, providing a ridiculous range of motions from super-powered attacks to just sleeping. There's a certain satisfaction you get from watching two monsters enter the same space and duke it out. When you have a monster throat grabbing another and body slamming it, or a Gyrotodos wriggling its way around a Baroth to bring him down, the ecosystem Capcom created here just almost feels like it could exist. There is an interesting point on the PS4 version playing on a PS4 Pro. On first startup, you have to choose if you want to boost a frame rate, graphics, or resolution with the added Pro power. Depending on your TV setup, you may choose to go different ways. Capcom seems like they'll be supporting this game with online events and content continually. The first DLC monster that was announced, the Devil Joe, a particularly fierce menace veterans of the series will know is coming soon. There's a Street Fighter crossover event going on at the end of February, and a hint that a Mega Man crossover is coming, as well as the PlayStation 1 getting several crossovers with Horizon Zero Dawn content. I imagine with the sales Capcom has been seeing, there'll be some great support for a while to come. So if you've been curious about the Monster Hunter series for a while and want to see what the fuss is about, Monster Hunter World is a great place to jump in. All of its systems and mechanics will take some work if you've never played one before, but this is the most user-friendly incarnation yet. The weapon options offer a ton of diversity. It's not all painfully slow swinging this time. The upgrade system is constantly enjoyable, with new things opening constantly, making a difference in appearance and noticeable strength. The ecosystems and monsters are really well done, and there's a ton of content where the repetition might set in a bit, but again you have the weapon options. This style of game has emerged a bit with its own subgenre, and without true character experience leveling, I hesitated a second going action RPG with this. For simplicity's sake though, we'll put it there. And rated as such, Monster Hunter World lands at an 86 out of 100 on a true 1 to 100 scale, with 50 being average. This is Gero for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. As always, feel free to hit that subscribe button for notifications of new videos, or follow me on Twitter at Umbra Games.